Thanks very much for watching On Point. Data from Stats SA shows that South Africa's unemployment rate decreased by 1 percentage point from 33.9% in the second quarter to 32.9% in the third quarter of 2022. But youth unemployment remains high. People between the ages of 15 and 34 remain vulnerable in the labour market. Their unemployment rate is at 45.5%. The latest quarterly labour force survey indicates that the total number of persons employed was 15.8 million in the third quarter of 2022. The manufacturing, trade, construction and transport industries recorded the largest job gains, while job losses were recorded in finance, private households and mining, as well as agriculture. Sectors that recorded job increases were the formal and informal, with 235,000 and 6,000 jobs respectively. Well, for more on this, I'm joined by Matthew Parks. He's COSATU's Parliamentary Coordinator. Thanks very much, Matthew, for joining us. What's your initial reaction to the latest unemployment figure?
Good afternoon. So look, it's quite positive news. We don't need to celebrate, pop the champagne bottles, because we still have an expanded unemployment rate of 43%. But it's positive that in the past quarter we had an additional 200,000 plus jobs being created. That's positive news. That unemployment has fallen by an additional 1%. I think also just bear in mind that in the first and second quarter of this year as well, unemployment also fell by 1% each quarter. So cumulatively for the year, for the first three quarters, we've seen unemployment fall by 3%. So I think that's positive progress. We hope we can sustain that momentum. Because if you can do that, that means each year unemployment could be falling by 4%. Then we could begin to be seeing us kind of reducing this kind of very high level of unemployment of 43%. So that's positive news. But we should also not rest on our laurels, because an unemployment rate of 43% is still extremely dangerous. It's still a ticking time bomb for society. We shouldn't be happy with it, even if there is progress. It should be giving us kind of a moment to say, okay, that's good news. There is some positive recovery after COVID, but we've got much, much more work to do, and let's intensify our efforts.
Yeah, no, I think you're absolutely right. And of course, we have to bear in mind that this is post-COVID, and I suppose there's some sort of normalization that's happening as well, because pre-COVID, the unemployment levels were still not satisfactory at all. So, Matthew, what do you say to some business owners and even some economists who say that established labour like COSATU actually have a hand in limiting the number of jobs created because of the demands that labour makes in the form of higher wages and benefits, which then results in employers being reluctant to hire more people?
Yeah, look, we say they're looking for the wrong scapegoats. The reason why we have high unemployment is because we have load shedding. Every level of load shedding costs at least R1 billion every single day to the economy, and that disrupts every company. So if there's load shedding, a restaurant can't sell their meals, it means they can't employ or pay waitresses and waiters, etc. We need to resolve that. If you can fix Eskom, all companies can be productive and can work. We also need to deal with the issue of cable theft, because that's crippling Transnet, which is critical to mining, to manufacturing, to agricultural jobs. If Transnet can be protected, can be secured and rebuilt, then those sectors can take off. That also means significant tax revenue coming into the state, because mining industry is the largest source of kind of revenue for the state. And of course, manufacturing, agriculture are key employment sectors as well. If we can get Metro Rail in the same vein as well, being protected, being rebuilt, that helps to boost the urban economy, because you make sure workers can get to work on time, at an affordable rate, etc. We also need to see more action by government around municipalities, because many of our municipalities are completely dysfunctional. We've seen some, like in Lichtenburg in the northwest, like in Frankfurt in the Free State, becoming so dysfunctional that they can't provide basic services like water or roads or electricity or sanitation, and some companies have closed, further contributing towards rural unemployment. So those are positive things. We think other things that we need to do as a nation is to invest more in the South African Revenue Service to tackle tax evasion. It protects local manufacturing jobs from illegal cheap imports. It also enables more money to be given to state to support investing in public services, which will help to grow the economy, rebuilding our SOEs. But we've also been having engagement with government to say we have a real problem, as you mentioned earlier, of youth unemployment, which is far above the national unemployment rate. Can we look at expanding the presidential employment stimulus, which has done quite well, helping 500,000 young people to become teaching assistants and so forth, earning a salary, getting experience, getting the foot into the labour market. If we can expand that by the budget in February to say 2 million people, that can really help to reduce unemployment and get people into the labour market, getting that experience. And of course, we should also be addressing the SOD grant issues because it's provided relief to 10 million unemployed people. It gives us some breathing space as a nation. It's not a solution, but it gives you some breathing space. Can we increase it to the food poverty line? Can we link it to skills in employment programs to help its recipients also find work, get the practical skills necessary to be hired? So there's a lot of moving targets. We have to do all of them. We can't afford to choose one and to neglect others.
Yeah, no, I do appreciate that response because it does, it's very solutions oriented, but I suppose it's about those particular issues coming to fruition. So let's move back to the issues of public sector. I mean, it remains to be seen who will win, so to speak, when it comes to the public sector workers fighting for higher wages in relation to the current inflation rate. But how concerned are you around government perhaps choosing to cool down recruitment of more public sector workers because of what it says are the attendant costs that come with recruiting more people?
So we're quite worried. For many years, government peddled a myth, which is they've now agreed it's nonsensical, that the public service is bloated. In 1994, we had 1 million public servants and 34 million South Africans. Today, we have about 60 million South Africans and about 1.2 million public servants. So you can see the headcount ratio for public servants to the public is declining. And that has a real negative impact in terms of classroom sizes. It has a negative impact that you have maybe one nurse doing 2 or 3 nursing jobs. You have doctors in public hospitals working 48-hour shifts to the point of exhaustion. We've also seen, which is quite scary, that the police headcount has declined from the 2010 World Cup from over 208,000 to about 172,000 to date. Yet our population is growing, our crime levels are growing, our levels of gender-based violence are out of control. So we think we need to do more to invest in the public service because businesses themselves need a well-functioning state. They need electricity, they need trains which run on time, they need a home affairs which can dispense IDs and other documents quickly, they need an effective police service dealing with crime, they need a well-educated public. So if we invest in the public services, we can grow the economy. I think the South African Revenue Service has shown that the value of a well-functioning public service institution because we solved SARS, we appointed competent management, we employed additional staff, filled critical vacancies, invested in the IT capacity, and SARS now has been able to turn the ship around from under-collecting by 150 billion rand in previous years to over-collecting tax revenues now, exceeding the targets rather, by 83 billion rand. And that then really helps to rebuild the state. So I think for us, let's invest in public service. The other danger in Mpumelelo is that if you continue to impose 0% increase in the public servants or below inflation, you will spark a brain drain. So the skilled public servants like doctors or nurses or teachers would rather then go work in the private sector where they get paid far more, or they'll rather go and work in the Middle East or Europe or wherever, Australia, where they get paid more for doing less strenuous work.
Yeah.
So we think we should either be paying public service a living wage and make sure we have a quality public service. Absolutely.
Well, Matthew, thank you very much for your time there and your insights. Matthew Parks, he's COSATU's Parliamentary Coordinator, giving us his perspective there on the latest unemployment figure.